He was named captain of Carlton's team of the century after leading the Blues in a record 226 games, including 2 premiership wins. He's universally admired in the football world. In fact, even Collingwood and Essendon people like him. Stephen Kernahan is a Carlton legend, a great of the game, and my guest this week on Open Mic. Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks, Michael. Good to be here, mate.
Which cuts deeper, a loss to Essendon or a loss to Collingwood?
Oh, both. I can't separate them. Look, Collingwood, the last few years we had trouble beating them, and we got over them earlier in the year. And Essendon, we've had a reasonable record against, but they both hurt a lot. But
is one the enemy? Is there an arch enemy and an enemy? I mean, do you, in your own view, the win over which of them is sweeter?
Well, I think Collingwood's been ingrained in me since I got to Carlton a little bit more heavily than Essendon, but Essendon certainly got very close over the last decade or so.
You prepared to contemplate premierships yet?
Well, it's why we're in the game. I mean, we can't really talk flash because you haven't made top 4, and you really need to have a real crack at it. You need to finish top 4 in my book. And last year we got close with 3 points in the final against West Coast in Perth, where they're hard to beat, with a few out. So this year we look for continual improvement. If we can position ourselves to get a crack at it, well, we'll have a go. But our time's over the next couple of years, so see how we go.
Let's turn the clock back. You're a 17-year-old making your debut with Glenelg in South Australia, yet it was 5 years before you came to Melbourne. Why so long?
Well, look, it was different times. I was playing at Glenelg, my club where I loved. My dad played there, and my brothers were there, and my best friends were there. So I didn't want to go to Melbourne. We used to watch Sunday, having a few beers after training on a Sunday morning, watching the winners and shows like that. But Adelaide was my home. I didn't need to go to Victoria, and I always sort of said it was a bit of an excuse at the time that I've got to win a flag before I go. And I suppose, I had to make it to Adelaide before I thought about Melbourne at the time.
Everyone I've posed this question to is amazed that you played 136 games in the SANFL before moving to Victoria.
I think they counted a few of the night games, Mike, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't think I missed a game in 5 years of senior footy there, and we played a lot of finals. And yeah, I was sort of ready to come, and we won our flag in '85, so it was time to give it a crack in the VFL, AFL, and I thought I might be back in a year, but I'm still here now.
Now, Carlton won your signature, but the Bombers, principally Kevin Sheedy and Melbourne, they were in the hunt for a long time too, weren't they?
Well, Sheeds drove me mad. He'd roll up in Adelaide. I was working at the Stock Exchange, and he'd roll up and have for lunch. We'd go have a bowl of chips, and he was great. I got to know him really well. He was fantastic, and Dick Seddon and Ian Ridley and the Melbourne guys were fantastic to myself. But I guess Carlton were the first people in contact, and I was very loyal to them, and really I was probably going nowhere else. The
Bombers had a habit of giving cars to South Australians, as I remember at that time. Did you get one?
No, I didn't get a car.
And did Braddles get one?
Braddles and Motts might have got something from... I remember Motts riding around in Adelaide in an RX-7 from Sydney, I think, many years back.
I want to ask you about that State of Origin game in 1984. You kicked 10 goals against Victoria. One of your opponents was the legendary Bruce Doyle, was he? How many did you kick on Dooley?
Well, poor old Bruce. I think everyone thinks I kicked 10 on Bruce. It wasn't. It was I stood at Purdy and Chris Mew and Bruce. There was probably a few on each.
They were great games. I must say, if I listed my 10 favourite memories of games played, I reckon 4 or 5 of them are state games in Adelaide.
Yeah, I reckon those early and mid-80 games, a few of those were 4 and 5 point games. They were some of the best games of footy I ever played, and they were fantastic. I
want to ask you about the McGarry medal that you should have won. You won the vote by 8. Tony Antropus won the medal because you'd been rubbed out. You hit Gary McIntosh. Why would anyone want to hit Gary McIntosh?
You never built Macca, would you? I mean, he was a tough bugger. For those who don't know him, he was much of the Greg Williams mould, and he could punch like Greg Williams too. He was a good player. And
what did you do to him?
Oh well, I may have cleaned him up at the centre bounce off the line at centre forward, and as I was wandering away, he came up and kinged me, and I kinged him back, and that was always a couple of hits each, and we got a game each.
You signed with Carlton in 1981, 4 years before you got here. Did you sign on the old Form 4, did you? The one that tied you for 2 years?
I think so. That was mine. We might have got a couple of bob with it, which was okay.
A couple of bob. Do you remember how many bob?
I think I got $5,000, Mike, and I bought my first car, a Mazda 929, with it.
So that was to sign the Form 4, which in fact lapsed while you were still playing.
You're allowed to do that in those days? I think that's
Statute of limitations, but you're right. Yeah. So that lapsed before you actually made the move. Why the commitment to Carlton? Was it because they were just first in the queue?
Probably. In the under-16, when I was a 15-year-old, a few of the clubs were, ringing and talking. But Sheahan O'Sullivan, I got to know him really well. He was a recruiting guy at Carlton at the time, and he came across and saw the family quite often, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As did a few of the other clubs. But, Sheahan was a great person, and, we got to know them well. And I suppose the first people that knock on the door, you're a bit loyal to.
And he's been rewarded with a job for life at Carlton, hasn't he?
He's still there now.
Yeah. You came across with Craig Bradley and Peter Motley. Now, we all know how good Braddles was. Peter Motley, it's a tragic story in a sporting sense, isn't it? I mean, what he might have been. I only saw a little of him, but he was obviously a great talent.
Yeah, it was horrific what happened there. And, Braddles played to his 38 and a half years of age. And, Motts was as fit as him. He was stronger and bigger. He could have been anything, Peter Motley. Let's make no worry about that. He would have been better than everyone, I think. And his athleticness, and he could jump, he could run. And he played half-back in 86 and those first 9 games of 87. They're just starting to move in the midfield. He could have been anything.
Now, tell us your memories of the accident. I mean, Peter Motley's driving home from training, doing nothing wrong in his car, and a vehicle travelling in the other direction hurdles across the median strip and into his face virtually.
It was Thursday night. We played Geelong at Waverley on the weekend, and we all got the call that night. Motts had the accident, and Paul Meldrum was the car in front of him. He got wiped out as well. We couldn't believe it at that time. Certainly that first few weeks, there was life and death, and it was a serious time for all of us. And we got up and won that day at Geelong on the Saturday, and I don't know how we did, because we were all, we just thought we were going to lose Peter Motley, so it was a big effort on everyone to get up.
Lovely touch when Braddles gave him his 1987 premiership medallion.
Yeah, well, they were close. They moved in together. They were really close and got to know each other so well, and they're great mates now. And Braddles and Motts' friendship will go forever, and that's the sort of relationship they had.
Now, back to your time at Carlton, you'd played 25 games of football for this powerhouse football club in Victoria, and Robert Walsh decides to make you captain.
Lunatics, isn't it?
Was there any fallout from in the player ranks? I mean, lots of people aspire to be captain. They don't publicly declare it, but this kid's come in from South Australia, played 1 season of football, and suddenly is the captain.
Well, look, I've said this before. When Wes Loss and Wolsey pulled me in and said, "I want you to be captain," I said, "No, boys, there's a lot of other blokes here, senior players. Just give it to them. That's fine." I said, "No, we don't want you going anywhere. We want you to do it. We want you to do it, though." I didn't have much choice. I was happy to do it in the end, but I really felt a little bit that I hadn't done my time yet at the football club. But the senior players of the club, Kenny Hunter and Jimmy Buckley and Wayne Johnston and Justin Madden, all those guys, and Harmsy and all those legends of the club, they were fantastic. And as always at the club, I was lucky enough. We always used to have about 10 captains there, I reckon, and. I was a bit embarrassed, to tell you the truth, at the time. 1
season later, you're the premiership captain. It was a dream start, wasn't it? Like, you'd played 49 games of football and were the captain of a premiership team.
Yeah, no, they're hard to win too, and you think if you win one that early, you can win a few more. But as time tells, they are hard to get. And that was a great year. We played well. We lost one in '86, and sometimes you have to lose them to win them. And we all got fair dinkum and pulled off against a serious opponent, Hawthorn, who were one of the great sides. And we got them that year, and very lucky to hold the cup up. It's a special moment. Chris
Langford knew. You seemed to play, I reckon, probably 20 times in your career. It's just every time it was Carlton and Hawthorn, it was Kernahan and Langford. He was a great player, wasn't he? Who do you think, honestly, finished in front at the end of the
I think Langers would have held me more quiet than I beat him by a fair way. He's a great player. He was as tall as me. He could run twice as quick. He was strong. And they had a great back line, Chris Mew and Gary is next to him. They're always hard to beat, and he's a great player, Chris Langford, don't worry about that.
You saw so much of him on the football field, the battles were so public, but you weren't friendly with him, were you? I mean, it seems like you two didn't want to get to know each other.
Yeah, I don't think we shook hands before and after. Yeah. We might have done it after the game, but I don't think we liked each other at all. And, Carlton Hawthorn had a real... there's a real rivalry. They were 2 powerhouse teams at that time when I'd first come to the club. So, we just got on with footy, and when we finished, we got out of there.
Adelaide comes into the competition in 1991. Lots of media speculation about the Crows looking to you to come back and be the inaugural captain. Did that happen?
Yeah, no, they had a good crack. They were sending McGuinness and McDermott over all the time, and Graham Corns, the coach, I had a bit to do with Cornsey at Glenelg. He was my premiership coach in '85, and Look, again, you know, I had to think about it. It actually coincided with 91. We were pretty ordinary at Carlton, and that's what, you know, made it a bit more... people thought I was going. My form had been ordinary at the start of the year, and people said, oh, he's had enough of Carlton, etc., etc. And apparently I was only boats and hotels in Adelaide and on the way home, but I was probably always staying.
Did you get close? Did they make you an offer that made you think about it?
I thought I had respect for the people there at Adelaide, so I gave them due diligence, I suppose, and had a few meetings with some people, but in the end I was always staying at home.
You topped the goal king at Carlton from 1986 to 1996. 11 seasons in a row. But you could miss the odd one, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, I could. I'm well known. Often, my wife and I, Jen and I, are sitting there watching TV and someone will float one through for a goal, and Dwayne Russell or someone will always, well, there's one of Stephen Kernahan's floaters. And I reckon I kicked it all right till late 20s, and I just lost it a bit. I finished at, 34, and I reckon those last 4 years, yeah, they were moving around a bit, they were doing a bit.
You did pioneer the helicopter, didn't you?
Apparently.
That day at the MCG, the scores are tied. You've got a shot on the siren. I reckon that missed by 30 metres. I reckon that missed the scoring zone.
It could have been 45. Just about went right angles. Yeah, I don't know. I was tired. I just tried to steer one through, and you know, it's been a long day. I'd got us the draw 30 seconds earlier. Yeah. Kicked one, but missed that one, and I'll be remembered forever for it.
Now, you played on a kid called Dustin Fletcher in the 1993 Grand Final. You had a good day, but he stamped himself as a player of the future then. Do you marvel at it when you see him play, and he's still playing? Like, well, this is, how many, 18, 19 years on, and he's still playing good footy.
He's a freak, and, you know, every time we come and play Essendon, I'll be whispering to Brett Ratton in his ear, make sure we don't free up Fletcher, mate. He'll kill us again, and it's amazing. As you say, what is he, 30? What's that?
37.
37.
Yeah.
He's still in the coach's thoughts about how to stop Fletcher in the game. It's quite unbelievable, and he's proven himself over a long period of time. He's a great player. 2 premiership teams, 87, your first one, and 95, a team that lost 2 games for the year. It was a brilliant team, just 2 games that you probably lost because you were lax. Which was the better team? I think the 95 team was. Although 87 beat a serious opponent in Hawthorn, not that Geelong weren't in 95, we had to be a good side to win in those days against the Hawks. So they were both really good sides. But that 95 team was a lot of senior blokes who'd been through some tough times to finally win one, and we were so driven as a group, and I think that was a special side, that one.
Isn't it funny, after 93, there was a view, I don't know how broad it was, but there was a view that this group was too old and there wasn't another premiership campaign in it, and yet you just smashed everyone in 95.
Well, you know, a lot of us, I think we had 8, a bit like Geelong had won premierships with a lot of players in their 30s. We were, you know, I was 32 when we won that flag. And so was Greg Williams, and so was Brattle, so we were all in our early 30s. They're hard to win, aren't they? We should have won a few more.
After the break, we'll have a chat about your role as Carlton president.
Certainly.
You've always been seen as a reluctant president, but you're now in the 5th year in office and no indication that you're going anywhere. Is the position growing on you?
Yeah, everyone sort of said that. I mean, look, Dick was around at the time. He had a few issues on, so I became sort of the part-time president, the interim president, as they called it, for a while. And Dick passed away 3 years, you know, in April. So, you know, it wasn't something I just wanted to be president, Mike. I've been on the board for quite a while and just happy to help with football and try and get us off the canvas from where we were for most of the 2000s. So to become president wasn't something I just really wanted to do, and now I've been not lumped with it. It was something that was given me. I do treat it seriously, and, you know, as you say, time's moved on pretty quickly. It's sort of amazing. It's been 4 or 5 years. I don't know, I'm not going to be there forever, Mike, but we're going to try and pull something off the next few years.
A couple of interesting moments during your presidency. One that you probably wouldn't consider to be the most diplomatic moment of your life. A best and fairest function at Carlton, late in the night, the president's at the microphone and you had a message for the media. Do you remember it?
Well, I don't know if I was president then, Mike. I'm not sure if I was or not, but no, well, I probably gave a little clip to a couple of... I think it was Mark Robertson, Caroline Wilson, Patrick Smith and Jake Nile.
I was offended I didn't get a mention in that mix.
Well, I took it easy on you, but it was look, I think the media at the time, it was the end of the football season, they've been whacking away at our footy club for quite a while, for a number of years, and that's fair enough, we understand that. And if if anyone's going to say anything, it was at a private club function that I didn't know there were a few cameras at. It was about 11 o'clock, Michael. I thought I might have got away with that and said a few things, but they were sarcastic and meant to be in reasonably good humour, but it wasn't taken that way. We've got the makings of one of the great sides. The next couple of years it'll come. And I'll tell you what, when that day comes, we are Carlton, the rest.
When you woke up next day and it's all over the radio that the Carlton president, the famous Stephen Kernahan, has dropped the magic word in a speech, is that embarrassing, or do you just sort of say, well, look, I don't care, I got my message across and they can live with it?
Oh, no. Well, look, I don't know. Look, the way I saw it was, look, we've been beaten around the head for a long time, and I said a few things in the best and fairest, and at the end I said, we are the Carlton Football Club and bugger the rest, you know. I mean,
is that what you said? Is that a direct quote?
Something like that, and I thought I'd moved away from the microphone, Mike, but I suppose the message was, you know, we need to stick together through this. We'll get through it. And, you know, if I had my time again, you know, it caused a ruckus. Yes, it did, but probably more that it was me saying something like that. Usually I do those things in private, as you know.
How can a football club of Carlton's ilk, Carlton's status, have a debt of more than $6 million?
Yeah, well look, Mike, we built 2 grandstands, and if you speak to John on the board in the old days, Vizzy Park as it is now, was possibly going to be the 3rd AFL ground, and you know, we built 2 grandstands, you know, cost nearly $30 million, and you know, we've been winding that debt down ever since. But to tell you the truth, the Carlton people, I'm not fussed about our debt. It's come down heavily, you know, in the last 5 years from 13 or 14 mil, and we're going to wipe it out in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm not worried about the debt. We'll continue to supply funds for our football team.
You mentioned Dick Pratt before. His widow Jeannie is vice president of your football club. There was some speculation, it looked like it was quite informed too, that she was seeking the presidency not so long ago. Is that true?
Well, she wasn't. I think it was mentioned to her family, wouldn't that be good? Because, as I said before, I probably have been seen as a reluctant president for a while. And Jeannie, when Dick passed away, people forget that Jeannie Pratt was with Dick all that time, all the decades that Dick's been following Carlton, so has Jeannie. She's been at all the functions, and we know her so well. And Jeannie was happy being patron like Dick was. She didn't really need this sort of thing, but we spoke to her about it. There was a push from a couple of people to maybe be president, but she said, Sticks, you're happy to do it. I said, Jean, if you want it, I'm happy for you to do it. It doesn't worry me. But we're a bit of a team now. She's happy where she is. She supports the football club and always has.
John Elliott, Stephen, very good friend of yours, former president of the football club. You had to make a strong stand a couple of years ago when John publicly asserted that Carlton had paid women for sexual favours to players. Now, did you in fact ban him, or did you just give him a stern talking to?
Well, I think officially a few people would have thought he was banned from the football club. Look, John said something out of context, and it caused some pain to the football club, and especially some people at the football club in those days. And I just said to John, it might be a good time to just steer clear of the club for a while, and I think that stood for a year or 2.
But there was a push to take his name off the grandstand. There was even a suggestion that his life membership should be removed. But you're a very loyal person to John, aren't you?
Well, I think, look, I have been very loyal. He's been very good to my family and myself, and I can't say a bad word about John, and that hurts some people, some important people at the football club. The police interviewing, like Stephen Goff and Ian Collins were our CEOs at the time. And I think John was at not a sportsman's day or whatever it was. He said the wrong thing and probably just inflated it slightly, and it caused a lot of issues and ripples back at the club. But people were angry at the football club, and I had to do something about it.
The period 2002 to 2007, the darkest period in the history of your football club, how difficult was that to cope with?
Yeah, tough. I suppose that best and fairest night, it gets to you. And, you know, no one likes... look, I accept the press's criticism, I really do. I've got no problem with all of that, and everyone has their opinions in football. It's an opinion business. And we had to cop our whack. We were defenceless. We had no sponsors. We were down on cash. You know, Bruce Matheson, when Colo came in, thought we should throw the keys in. That's how bad we were.
Really?
And you know, sometimes those dark days, you need those to put things in perspective. And we've grown since then. We've doubled revenue and grown into a strong football club again, which is a good thing. But they tested everybody. We couldn't attract, you know, old players back to the club, etc. No one wanted to be involved. So it was a tough time, but it makes you a bit stronger in the end.
How did it all go so bad?
Well, look, I think it came to a head, obviously, without going back through it. The the salary cap infringements, nearly $1 million fine, and that period of time when we needed the draft picks, we lost players of the calibre like Braddles and McKay and Ratton and Hickmott, and we lost a lot of experience, and it was very hard to rebuild a footy team, and next minute you're on the bottom, and financially not very attractive to anybody.
And you lost Goddard and Wells in the draft, didn't you? I mean,
well, we think about that a lot there.
Yeah, I bet you do. Sticks, the life and times of Brendan Favola, key forward, massive marketing tool for Carlton in the early years, and yet you had to get rid of him in the finish. That would have pained you, wouldn't it?
Oh, look, Fev was there for 11 years, so, some people say, how did you get through that for so long? And, people who didn't know him, he's got a lot of good traits, Fev, and, we had a lot of good times with him down there. We also had a lot of times where he caused us issues, and during the bad times, it was tough, but Fev was our only draw card at the time, and Dennis, we couldn't get rid of, we couldn't entice people to come to the club, and Fev was a standout, and he kicked 99 goals in a pretty ordinary side. It's a serious effort to do that, and in the end we had to make the call.
Do you think had you been firmer earlier that it might have been a different outcome?
I think we let him get away too much early and made a rod for our own back in the end, yeah.
One other area of Carlton's recent history that probably didn't bring a lot of glory on the club were the suggestions that of tanking and the famous Cruiser Cup when you played Melbourne and won the selection that enabled you to get Matthew Cruiser. Did you take offence at those insinuations?
Well, I think tanking's been, everyone's been talking about for many, many years, and it was a tough time. Tanking doesn't happen. We played a few kids late in the season. Dennis Pagan was removed, unfortunately, and in a tough time, around 16 that year in 2007, and Brett Ratt was put in as interim coach for the last 6 games, and we probably, from memory, were in winning positions in 4 of those 6 games, and just about could have won both. It didn't quite get there.
Did you want to win those games?
Well, yeah, we did. We went out there to win them, Michael. But,
did you, Stephen? You look me in the eye and tell me that...
look you in the eye. We didn't go out the tank. You can't tell a player to go out there and not play.
No, but I'm talking about when the way teams are managed. Did you think that Carlton gave itself every chance of winning those games of football?
Absolutely. God, the previous 5 games we lost by an average of 80 odd points. The last 6 games we were competitive and going the right way again. So that was good. No tanking, Michael, no. The
Judd deal. Did you have a key role in that when Chris Judd came back from...
No, there's a lot of people that put their hand up for that role, but I'll be one of the few that won't be.
Because I wondered how you felt as some influence there, knowing how good Juddy was, but knowing that you had to give up Josh Kennedy, who played in your position, and looked like he was going to be a player.
Well, look, Josh Kennedy, I had a great interest in him. I knew he was going to be a good player, and a few people at our club thought he was a bit slow in the first 2 or 3 years, and I think, God, have a look at how many big blokes have taken a bit of time to get going, and have a look at him now. But look, to get a Chris Judd Football Club, with the Dick Pratt coming to our football club, that turned us around. That turned it from the negative and the black clouds. They lifted after Dick came to the club, and it turned it around and got the place going again. And Chris Judd did the same thing when we got in there, and Dick Pratt had a big part in that with Greg Swan and the managers. They got the job done. We did a lot of work with it. We kept it a few people to get the deal done. It was a tough one to get done. And we had 2 picks. We weren't going to lose pick 1. We had picks 3 and 20. We offered that up, but Richmond had pick 2 and 12. And I think the Eagles would have rather deal with them, so we had to throw in Kennedy to get the job done. We weren't going to lose Chris Judd.
Juddy's a fantastic player. You see him every week. Where does he sit among the Carlton players that you've seen live?
Pretty high.
Yeah.
I think
Judd, at the top?
I think Judd's a superstar, and we've had so many good players in my time at Carlton, and as I said, Nichols and Jesaulenko and Dool are the 3 big names at our footy club, I would have thought. And my time, Williams and Braddles and Sauce and Justin Madden, all those guys, and Wayne Johnston. There's some serious players in that, but I think Juddy at the end of his time, and he's 28 now. Hopefully, he can go into his early 30s at least. He'll be right up there, I would have thought.
I've got a hypothetical for you. The end of the 2012 season, Carlton wins the flag. The boys celebrate. Juddy might have had a beer or 2 too many and suddenly murders the song Stand By Your Man and tips a beer over his head. Do the Blues sanction him or just laugh with him?
I'd laugh with him. You'd think after 25 years, I think my wife and I had enough pain on that song, but it's nice being remembered for a couple of things like that Essendon kick in that song. But I think Juddy could do what he likes if we win a flag, and so could I.
Stand by your man and tell the world you love him.
Are you embarrassed by that moment or not? I just tend to feel that you are, but I'm not sure you should be.
But it's actually played out more, Mike, now. It's everywhere I go, someone says, "Oh, I heard your song last week," or "I heard your song this week on the radio or TV." But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. And no one was meant to see it. Everyone must have thought I just did that to
You're naive about this. You know, there's cameras around when your big events are on.
Well, it was meant to be bloopers tape. Peter Donegal left to pay him, and Eddie Maguire, I think, at Channel 10 at the time. They were the ones who let it go. But, you know, look, it is what it is. And, I mean, am I embarrassed about it? I don't enjoy seeing it all the time. But I understand out there. We need to have a laugh in this game sometimes too.
I agree. Stephen, you're a great man. You've made a massive contribution to Carlton and to football in general. Great to see you, and good luck for 2012.
Thank you, Michael.